Hello everyone, welcome to Shira. Today our guest is Summit Limited's CEO Maria Halas. Welcome to the program, Maria.
Belle, thank you so much for having me.
Maria, you were born and raised in Hungary. So tell us about your childhood.
Wow, that's a big question. Yes, I was born in Hungary, and I lived there until I was 19. I came to Australia after that. I come from a farming family. So my family lived in a country, lots of bicycle riding, a lot of animals, a lot of plants, a lot of farming. So that was the background. I went to university in a local university, which is actually the second largest city in Hungary.
What's it called?
Debrecen, but second largest, but only 400,000 people live there.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you compare that, even the Australian cities, it's very tiny.
Okay. You were studying medicine at that time.
That's right. So my first degree was medicine. I went to the local medical school, and as I was growing up, very, very young, 16, 17, you never know what you want to do, and almost get groomed. If you're really smart, you can be a lawyer or you can be a doctor. And of course, in my family, being a doctor was definitely an option. So I ended up in medical school, but very soon after I realized that I wasn't going to be a doctor. I didn't like it.
So you did something quite extraordinary at the time. You left your country, moved to Austria without telling your parents.
Yes, that is exactly what happened. I wasn't happy. I was restless. I was young. And instead of telling my parents, which I thought was going to make them so upset, I just left the country without a word.
You packed up your bag, moved to Austria.
Yes, so I actually arrived in Austria as a political refugee. I asked for asylum locally there, and the first thing they do is they put you through an interview process. You really establish whether you're really a refugee or not, and then you look at countries where you can go where actually they accept refugees.
Okay, so then the next choice for you is to Australia. Why you picked Australia?
So that is a really important question, because most of the refugees, they don't have a choice. You just put your name down everywhere, because as a refugee, it's not like you can pick where you want to go. But I just had this enormous drive emotionally that I really just wanted to come to Australia. And that comes from, very, very emotional. My brother, who when I was young gave me a book about Australia and Oceania, and he used to read from the book to me when I was little, and saw all the kangaroo, platypus, emus, and the beautiful flora. And I had that dream that one day I'm going to visit. And of course, after my brother passed away, that has become a real objective of my life.
So was it quite emotional and something quite instinctive at the time for you to choose that you wanted to leave something better, or something you felt the limitation, you wanted to have a change, and then the universe led you to Australia?
It's interesting you say the universe, because somehow after I left Hungary, and I had no proper plan, I really was so ignorant, but somehow the universe has opened and delivered. And I was able to be accepted in Australia. Within 3 months of arriving in Austria, I got permanent residency in Australia. The Australian government paid for my travel to Perth, and where I settled very easily at that time. So it as if the universe would have opened up their arms and said, yeah, come, that's the right path.
Yes. So when you arrived in Perth, you continued to study. You dropped out of medicine school, but you studied science. Is that right?
Well, look, I didn't quite drop out of medicine, but eventually I ended up with a science degree. I really wanted to be a geneticist, but very shortly after, spending long hours in the lab, I realized that wasn't exactly what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. So, fortuitous circumstances led me to my first job after my degree, and I ended up in a pharmaceutical development biotechnology company as an analyst.
So you had a science background, and then what really drives you into business?
So look, it was like for many, many young people, it was almost incidental. You know, I met someone in a social environment who was a senior executive in a biotechnology company. I went to work there as a science expert, essentially, but got a real taste for the commercial aspects. You know, reporting to the board, talking about business, writing business plans about those drug development programs was very exciting. So I realized that that's my passion.
Yeah, so that was a natural transition from science into business.
Actually, when I look back now, it looks rather natural. At the time, I felt a little bit lost. Am I doing the right thing? Am I going in the right direction? You know, I mean, you always have that, particularly if you're not entirely firm about what you want to do, what your career should be. And, you know, some kids are really sure and others aren't. And I was one of those who would have been happy studying for the rest of my life.